Go. First Goes Forum today. My name is Justin Kuzart. We appreciate you guys joining us, focusing a lot on local and awesome things that are happening locally here in Jacksonville, highlighting businesses that are adapting and changing with the times to help the needs of people that are essentially fighting the coronavirus. So we bring in David Cohen, president and head distiller of Manifest Distilling. You know them down in downtown Jacksonville. So, David, first of all, thank you for taking some time out of your day, which I imagine is a very busy day these days. We appreciate you taking some time to, come on and talk to us about what you guys are doing.
Of course. I appreciate you having me, Justin.
So, I guess let's start from the beginning. You guys were, as an industry, I'd imagine you would say were hit pretty hard from the coronavirus. Obviously, a lot of changes with social distancing, not a lot of people allowed to come to you guys, or working-wise, not a lot of people allowed to be close to each other. So what were some of the first steps you guys had to take, at least in the distilling world, to kind of follow the guidelines that everybody was putting out?
We don't have a huge staff. I mean, we've got about 15 people that work with us at Manifest. So complying with the social distancing wasn't incredibly difficult. And I think this started to kind of ramp up early in the week, whether that's about 2 weeks ago now, maybe 3 weeks ago, when it started in the U.S. and at least in Florida, it started kind of coming across our radar. And so we don't open our tasting room until Thursday. So we had a couple days early in the week to figure it out. We were pretty proactive in terms of the way we handled. We kind of rolled out a series of preventative measures that started with, you can come inside, but no more tasting, no more consumption. So you could come in, you could buy bottles, you could buy stuff, but that was it. And then obviously that got more restrictive to the point now where we are open with limited hours for people to come in, and we're doing curbside style pickup, like most of the restaurants and bars are doing. So I think we've had to evolve as the outbreak itself has evolved, the humanity in general, just worrying about people in our city and the economy and, and those elements. And obviously we all have plenty of time to think about it right now.
Yeah, that's what I mean is a lot of people everywhere, and this has kind of been at least the theme of at least everybody I've talked to about this is adapting and changing to fit the changing times, finding a way that you can continue to do your business or do something that helps out while still following the guidelines that you have to follow.
Right.
So let me ask you this. For anybody that's not familiar with Manifest Distilling, what do you guys normally make? Distill there. What kind of liquors are you guys normally making?
So Manifest is an organic craft distillery. We're based in downtown Jacksonville. We're right across from the Maxwell House facility, right there on Bay Street and A. Philip Randolph. And Jacksonville started 4 years ago this September. And it was started by myself and another group of guys, a lot of us Jacksonville natives who grew up here, left, lived other places, came back, and were just passionate about what was going on in Jacksonville. We make 5 core products. So we make rye whiskey, we make a barrel-aged gin, a contemporary style gin, a Florida citrus vodka, and a potato vodka.
Okay, awesome. And so now, with the coronavirus coming on, the thing that's caught everybody's eye that everyone's talking about is you guys are no longer making those. Or are you making those as well as making hand sanitizer?
So it's a good question. We have not discontinued production to the extent that we cannot fulfill orders.
Okay.
But because of the shift in the industry, there's been a decrease in business for us. We generate a good amount of revenue from our tasting room itself. That's just people coming in and visiting us and buying bottles. And then obviously our distribution business is another huge piece of that puzzle. We obviously lost all that tasting room business, and then we lost a big chunk of our distribution business because of what restaurants are going through. So we haven't needed to produce as much. We're kind of just producing what we need in terms of, whiskey to age, the kind of stuff that doesn't have to be made on demand.
Okay.
But other than that, the main priority has been focused on hand sanitizer.
Okay. And so I guess my main question is what is the difference between I guess is it called distilling hand sanitizer? Is that like the technical term of it?
Not really. I mean, so hand sanitizer, at least with the World Health Organization guidelines, are suggesting using an alcohol-based hand sanitizer.
Okay.
There are other types out there. They have deemed this to be the most effective right now. So being in the, I think where this evolves from is, and I read a really interesting article that I won't cite because I'll probably butcher it, but it was talking about why is there such a shortage of hand sanitizer right now. And I was shocked to find out that the amount that's typically made pales in comparison to the amount that's needed. And when they issued the guidelines for it being an alcohol-based hand sanitizer, obviously the supply chains aren't set up to produce the volume of sanitizer needed that's alcohol-based. So what ended up happening is the alcohol beverage industry, which is what we're a part of, said, well, hey, we make alcohol all the time. Why don't we step in? Now, the alcohol that's used for hand sanitizer, it can be any type of alcohol, but distilleries produce beverage alcohol or ethanol that's typically fit for consumption, right?
Yeah.
So it is, I don't want to say a higher grade. It's just a different grade than is needed for hand sanitizer. So what you have is you have a supply chain that broke down, and you've got an alternative industry that makes a very similar raw material that was able to kind of step up and supplement to a degree a lot of the larger kind of fuel alcohols and other things that are producing millions and millions of gallons for other other industries.
So that's awesome. So I guess does it look, like when someone thinks of hand sanitizer, right? Like it looks like that clear. There's like bubbles in it. Like does it? Would someone be able to tell a difference between a hand sanitizer that you'd pick up at a Target and the hand sanitizer that you guys are making?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference, and it depends what you're used to using, is a lot of people use a gel form.
Yeah.
So what your Purell is, it's a pump and it's a gel. We're making a liquid. So it doesn't have that same viscosity. It can be sprayed or poured on the hand. Ours is also a lot higher percentage of alcohol than what's typically found at your drugstore, only because that's the recommendations that are being given. So it feels a little different in the sense that it's liquid and it evaporates quickly. It evaporates a little bit quicker just because of the higher alcohol percentage. That's about it.
Okay, so and you kind of mentioned that you've been working with regulators, I guess, to make sure everything's the way that it needs to be, and the hand sanitizer is the way that it needs to be for like if it's going to a doctor's office or someone needs it, right?
Correct. And I'm going to answer that question. In the meantime, I'm going to move rooms.
Okay.
Because I'm actually in my house, and I'm going to get a little closer to the source of our internet.
Okay.
And hopes that it improves our connection.
No worries.
By the end of the interview, you're going to see every room in my house.
We'll just try every single one. I like that idea.
I'm actually in my son's room right now. It's interesting. I've done a lot of interviews and just meetings from home.
Yeah.
And this is a segue. But one of the things that I've found to be really interesting is there is a very, I don't even know if you can hear it. That's my son running around outside. There's a very humanizing element to all this, right?
Yeah.
Like we're seeing inside of people's homes. People are more accepting than ever. And it's just like you and I, we had a call scheduled for yesterday. I got stuck in the middle of Publix, and it's like, what do you do?
It's one of those things where, again, we kind of referenced it, it's changing times. You see new stuff, but even, to take it to sports, on ESPN, you see these guys doing their broadcasts live from their house. And like you said, it's very humanizing of them.
It is. I mean, and I think it's, we're getting off on a total tangent, but I think it's interesting because I think this will end up changing a lot of businesses, in terms of the way they operate. People realize how efficient they can be working from home, how much can get done not in the office,
Hmm.
and how important, the relationships are and spending time with your family. Those of us who do have families or hold up with them.
Yeah.
So, it's forcing us to reinvest in that relationship, which is it's really cool.
It's cool, and it is one of those things where I always try to remind myself, like this is a really cool part of it. Well, while
Hmm.
there's a lot of negative coming out of this and sad around this COVID-19
Hmm.
coronavirus, there's still going to be some spots that families hopefully will be closer because they've been spending time together. You get some of those
Right.
things where maybe people get caught up in the life of it. So,
Yeah.
um,
Silver linings.
right, exactly. So the one thing I was reading about the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau, they waived guidelines, and I think you maybe kind of referenced that in ways for you guys to make the sanitizer, right?
Right. So back on track to answer your question. So, as a beverage alcohol producer, we're regulated by the Tax and Trade Bureau,
Hmm.
which is used to be ATF before 9/11, and then that kind of paired off, and it's now a part of the IRS and the Department of Treasury.
Okay.
So it's a taxation authority. They're the ones that set the guidelines for us to produce beverage alcohol. Um, Prior to maybe 2.5 weeks ago, it was illegal for us to be producing hand sanitizer because hand sanitizer is regulated by the FDA.
Okay.
So you have to have a whole different set of, not really permits, but it's a whole different set of regulations to be able to produce it. So when this happened, and to the government's credit, um, they have reacted very quickly, which is very surprising
Hmm.
based on business as usual. Um, so they lifted the ban so that beverage alcohol producers, distillers could produce a hand sanitizer, and then they worked in concert with the FDA and the CDC and the World Health Organization. So it is still an FDA product. We actually had to register as an FDA uh, manufacturer,
Okay.
and we had to submit a formula, and we had to register our label. It has to be an approved label.
Oh wow.
So they have kind of relaxed some of the guidelines to help speed up the process, but we're still held to the same, restrictions. And yeah, yeah.
Has that been difficult to navigate for you guys at all?
Yes and no. Thankfully, we have a really great. Um, it's an association or a guild, the American Craft Spirits Association, and Discus, which is the Distilled Spirits Council of the United States, which they kind of oversee and manage a lot of the larger distilleries, and then the American Craft Spirits Association is kind of our guild. But they've issued a ton of guidance. They've done a great job kind of lobbying as our voice to
Okay.
reflect what we're trying to do on the ground with legislators and regulators so that there can be a good flow of information. I would say it's no more difficult than dealing with the Tax and Trade Bureau. It's just a new set of rules.
Hmm.
So there's obviously that acclimation time where we're dealing with a different portal, and we're dealing with different forms,
Yeah.
different regulations, different language in a lot of ways.
So let me ask you this: with the way that you guys make it, like how many, I guess, bottles of sanitizer are you guys able to turn out? Are you doing this on like a weekly basis? I know you guys are delivering them and shipping them out. So we'll get to that part in a second. But you know, how much are you guys able to make? In say a week?
It's a good question. So based on the type of alcohol that we make, we are actually not producing 100% of the ethanol that we need to produce a sanitizer.
Okay.
Instead, we are relying on our supply chains that we work with to bring in ethanol. So we have supply contracts where we bring in supplemental ethanol to produce a lot of our spirits that are unaged. And so we are relying on those contracts to supply us with ethanol. So in a sense, and you asked this question earlier about whether or not this is distilled or not.
Yeah.
We're really blending. We're really compounding and blending, right? So we're bringing in all these different elements, putting them together, blending them, testing them to make sure that they fit the parameters correctly, and then packaging them. A lot of producers, I won't get into the weeds of distillation, but there are some producers out there that are set up to be producing really high proof ethanol that can be used for this. We do not. That's not the type of distillation that we run.
Okay. And so where are you guys delivering these hand sanitizer bottles to? Are they staying locally here in Jacksonville? Are you sending some out to help, like, say, New York, which is like the epicenter of this right now?
Uh, so I right we've run one small batch, all of which has gone to the local hospitals and testing sites, to Baptist Health and Telescope Health.
Okay.
We have more of our supply chain coming in, actually starting today, and we'll be resuming production over the weekend and through next week, and then until we need to stop, until there's enough, and all the supply
Right.
chains have caught up. We're running 1,000 liter batches at a time, and that's about the correct batch size that we need to blend, and then that will go into a combination of 2-ounce, 3-ounce, and 1-gallon containers. The demand out there is scary, how massive it is and the amount of people that need it. I hope we can fulfill it. If we can't, I think as a collective, as our industry, along with normal suppliers, we will be able to fill it. It's just a matter of how long is that going to take. So starting next week, we will start delivering. We are not currently shipping out of state.
Okay.
Just in North Florida, we have over 4,000 gallons on order right now.
Wow.
Just in Northeast Florida and Southeast Georgia. So we are going to be kind of busting our butt to just fulfill that. Likewise, we've prioritized, public essential, private essential, and private non-essential businesses. And we're going to try to chip those away before we just release it to the public.
Mm-hmm.
Those top two tiers on the front line.
Okay. And so you guys, have you been getting reached out to by people that are saying they need this?
Yes. I mean, we've done no outbound marketing, as you could look at it that way. We've done no, we started producing it. We have some friends in the healthcare industry that said, hey, look, it'd be great if you could help us out. We really started with helping them out.
Okay.
And then we get over 100 calls a day easily, from just people and institutions everywhere. Like I said, from South Georgia, and then we've had other states. We've had people in Pennsylvania and Connecticut, and kind of all over reaching out.
Okay. And so to take it from, I guess, a distillery side of it, have you had other distilleries reach out to you and ask you guys, like, hey, how are you doing this? How are we able to also help, and kind of collaborating on ways that other distilleries can kind of step up and help you guys out, try to meet the demands? Because I know you were saying it's a lot.
Yeah. So I think, there is a kind of a burgeoning craft spirits guild in Florida,
Okay.
which is the Florida Craft Spirits Association. That it has been around for a while, and it's just had a hard time getting started. I think just because our industry, the craft distillers in Florida, is young. I mean, it's not, no one, to my knowledge, no one's been doing it over 10 years. We've got guys 5, 6, maybe 7 years, and that's kind of it. So we have a good contact list there. We internally, that group has all been kind of sharing what they're doing,
Okay.
sharing resources, sharing links. And so there's been a kind of an ongoing dialogue there.
Okay, and then I know the last one that I was kind of interested in, because you guys is the distillery certified organic, or do you guys just make a point to be organic?
So the distillery itself is a certified organic
Okay.
distillery, meaning we are different from a farm or a grower. We're considered a processor, which just means that everything we source has to have a chain of custody of being organic.
Okay, and
It also means we can produce non-organic material.
okay, so will this affect your ability to be organic at all?
No, no,
Okay.
because we, as part of this certification, we can produce non-organic. For example, our potato vodka is not an organic product because organic potatoes are, believe it or not, somewhat difficult to source at the scale that we would need.
Okay.
So it is a non-GMO. It is a sustainably grown product. It's just not certified organic. So we do make non-organic products. For example, this hand sanitizer is not organic. Believe
Okay.
it or not, it's not the ethanol that's the problem. It's actually some of the modifiers. So, for example, vegetable glycerin or just glycerin is very difficult to find in large quantities in organic as an organic, especially at this kind of a notice.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. That was something I was wondering about because I know, there's definitely some rules when it comes to that kind of stuff. So, um,
Sure.
David, we appreciate you coming on and kind of shedding some light as to what you guys are doing. When are you shipping out? I think you may have mentioned it, but when are you guys shipping out a batch?
So we should have more available by middle of next week,
Okay.
and we'll very quickly fill the backlog of orders that we have. And then hopefully, once we get a grasp on all of that, we will begin making it available to the public out of the distillery.
Okay.
But we're doing a great job of keeping our social media up to date, announcing any hours for our tasting room, and also announcing our efforts with the sanitizer.
Okay, and yeah, before we let you go, what is the social media pages that they can follow to find that? And I guess if somebody wants to reach out to you, is there an email or is there a phone number
Sure.
or something they can do that with?
Sure. So, Instagram and Facebook are our two primary social media vehicles. Um, Instagram is just at Manifest Distilling, and then Facebook just search Manifest Distilling. There's only one. And for if you want to email us, you can email info at manifestdistilling.com.
All right, David Cohen, president and head distiller at Manifest Distilling, doing an awesome thing, stepping up and making some hand sanitizer for people who need it, the people on the front line, and potentially even you as a consumer when you may need it as well. So, David, we appreciate you coming on and kind of telling
Right.
us a little bit about that. Again, I can't say it enough. We really do appreciate what you guys are doing.
Well, Justin, I appreciate you reaching out and telling the story. And I appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you.